Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It is, of course, Friday, June 6, 2014, and the ECB, the European Central Bank, the equivalent of the terrorist organization that makes up the Federal Reserve here in the United States, basically made a historic move yesterday, imposing negative interest rates on the world economy and the big banks of Europe to combat deflation, but under the guise, or at least the sell job, the con job, that they're going to lend more to the little guy, which we know that's total bullshit. It shows you just how disastrous the finances are of the weak and destructive Eurozone. The European Union, 5 years out of the worst financial crash and crisis in the history of man, turning interest rates negative so that they can survive, so that they can barely continue the Ponzi scheme for a few more days, maybe a few more months, maybe a few more years, who knows, maybe only for a few more hours before the entire financial system literally implodes in on of itself and destroys civilization. Here we have a picture of Mario saying, "Together the measures will contribute to a return of inflation rates to levels closer to 2%. Now, the real inflation rate, of course, we're seeing rise dramatically in food prices. It's perpetrating and making people go hungry overseas. You've probably noticed your milk and your eggs and your meat and your poultry rising, but they're still very concerned about people not spending their money. Again, when the masses stop drinking the Kool-Aid and they stop going into tremendous, massive debt, the entire economic system itself structurally collapses overnight. So they got to keep this loose like a hooker credit going into infinity until the next collapse. Now, of course, all of these scumbags on Wall Street and over in Europe are going to sail off into the sunset in their yachts while you suffer. But this is all a part of the program of easy credit and easy money at criminal organizations like the Federal Reserve here in the United States, private entities, unelected officials like Janet Yellen, who basically are just lubing the system for the hedge funds so that they can trade 12-to-1 leverage, and they can Ponzi up our stock market with algorithmic computer trading and screw the little guy into infinity. It says that the ECB cut its deposit rate for banks from 0 to negative 0.1% yesterday to encourage banks to lend to businesses rather than to hold on to the money. So they're actually charging the big banks now to really hold their deposits, saying it's to encourage lending to the little guy, although we know it's not true. It has nothing to do with the little guy. You, your family, your mother, father, brother. If they cared about savers and retirees, they'd be raising interest rates so that retirees and those that have worked their entire lives for their savings could actually get a return on their investment without taking unnecessary, excessive risk in the Ponzi scheme that is the stock market today. With bond yields at all-time lows, now going negative, the person that gets effed and screwed is you. So don't believe for a minute that these negative interest rates have anything to do with you. And again, it is just a perfect example of just how destructive and diseased the system currently is. I mean, think about it. With the U.S. stock market and stock markets around the world hitting all-time highs on the Dow Jones Industrial Average and S&P 500, for example, why would they need to take rates negative? Why would they need to lower rates even more if things are so good? Again, it only proves that we're on the verge of collapse. And at some point in the not-too-distant future, literally, we could be at the brink of the end of civilization as we know it, at least in terms of our financial solvency. The Obama administration, a terrorist organization in and of itself, serving the New World Order agenda, taking on massive overhead and tremendous debt that will saddle our children and children's children with really no options going into the future, in an America totally and entirely destroyed. Bloomberg also reports that Europe has unveiled historic measures against the deflation threat. Again, keep the buying sheeple spending and keep the debt Ponzi scheme going. They've got to keep drinking the Kool-Aid. Otherwise, all of these hedge funds, these banks, the European Union, and the United States literally will collapse overnight. Not just my opinion, it's the opinion of people like Steve Forbes, president and CEO of Forbes magazine, and many other very intelligent individuals that study our financial markets, understand supply and demand, basic economics, and laws that should be governing our financial system. But again, these financial terrorist scumbags like Mario here, Janet Yellen in the States, Ben Bernanke before her, Alan Greenspan, really just useless pawns for the Wall Street criminals, the John Corzines of the world that literally steal outright from their customers while sailing off into the sunset and shaking hands with their friend Barack Obama in the White House. A president who, by the way, has been acting like a king, an emperor as of late, bypassing Congress, and really not giving a shit that he's acting like a king here in the United States. Of course, we've had a record rise in stocks over the past 5 years, hitting all-time highs. We have a release of an employment report today with employment still sticking at roughly 6%. Now, of course, these numbers are totally altered, manufactured, and massaged to sell it to you, the little guy, as somehow a good thing, while the real employment rate is a lot higher than 6.3%. You've probably heard the U6 rate. The U6, the real unemployment rate, is more in the ballpark of 13%. Has been as high as 15% or more. I would argue maybe it's even higher at 20% here in the United States of America. So of course, this is not transferring into the real economy. And what people ask me all the time, Christopher, is, how long can this last? When will my money become worthless? And how much longer can I trust this bullshit dollar that I hold in my wallet, backed by nothing? A coin and currency that says liberty on it, but should really just say, in debt, we trust. In Wall Street criminals, we trust. In emperor kings like Obama, we trust. I think it's gotten to the point where the ECB and the Federal Reserve, they can't raise interest rates because if they do, it'll literally collapse the economy, even if they go to positive rates. I mean, they're having to go negative on interest rates just to survive. That's how bad things are. So they can't raise rates. What I think they do is they continue the Ponzi scheme into the future until the next collapse. And of course, they can't do anything in the next collapse because there will be no more bailouts. You can't turn interest rates any further negative. You can't buy any more mortgage-backed securities. You can't do any more quantitative easing to infinity. The only thing they can do is change the paradigm entirely and screw you over and destroy your wealth in the process. We see the emergence of things like Bitcoin, which eBay CEO says is the key to the future of online payments. Virtual, digital, competitive currencies. Now, of course, the government has their pesky, hairy palm all over it, having invested in Bitcoin and other threats to national security through their CIA arm investment firm InQtel, INQTEL. Look it up for yourself. The government obviously heavily involved, but this is where I think they change the paradigm entirely. Whether or not it's Bitcoin or it's Litecoin or it's Google coin or it's Apple coin or it's Google or Apple endorsing Bitcoin or another coin, making it a viable alternative to the bullshit currency that we use today overnight. So we could very likely wake up in the future and all of a sudden the dollar in your pocket isn't worth anything, which is the case today. It's just based on useless bullshit faith, not connected, backed by gold, a natural resource, a commodity, really anything. Arguably, Bitcoin itself, it has more integrity backed by its algorithmic code than the useless, worthless paper that our money is printed on here in the United States. Of course, as we move forward into the future of digital currency, eBay CEOs acknowledging this, we also have mass online retailers starting to do business in Bitcoin. Here with the Overstock CEO, Patrick, addressing a global community of economists and entrepreneurs on the future of Bitcoin and the integration with Overstock.com. You can now transact your purchase of clothing, of jewelry, of watches, of health and beauty products, and electronics worldwide through the virtual currency. And of course, we're already using things like PayPal, which is responsible for a tremendous amount of transactions worldwide on an annual basis. So the bottom line being that all of this is moving to the virtual coining system. All of this is moving to digital currency. And it's where I think and how I think the U.S. Criminal Federal Reserve and the ECB transitions us from this broken, unsustainable, diseased, criminal, crony system of bank bailouts and negative interest rates through these organizations, really these terrorist fronts run by the European Union and the United States, will literally create an environment that once this turns to zero, which is pretty much where it already is, again, backed by nothing, they'll again cripple the American populace, the European populace. They'll send your assets to zero, drive you out of your retirement, destroy all of your capital. Literally, this will not be worth anything. And then they'll conveniently slide a new digital currency like Bitcoin or Litecoin or Google Coin or Apple Coin, merging big tech with big government. And they'll change the paradigm while in the meantime raping you and your family, literally taking everything they can, holding you upside down and emptying your pockets as they bang the shit out of you and have been doing over the past several years. Again, all of this a part of the New World Order paradigm to destroy America. And this is all openly, aggressively, and overtly happening in Washington, D.C. today at the Criminal Federal Private Reserve and at the ECB, now turning interest rates negative, showing and giving more proof to the pudding just how disastrous this situation is and how much of on the edge of a cliff America really is, and your money truly is. I'm Christopher Green, hard-hitting it in your face. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, and click the link below to support our sponsor.